Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, RPG Retro Reviews. This video is not the retro review on Star Wars the role-playing game I promised you earlier this week, but a brief overview at all the licensed role-playing games produced for Star Wars over the last 28 years, from the original release in 1987 from West End Games to the most current 2015 release, Force and Destiny, from Fantasy Flight Games. This being a retro review channel, my review next week will focus exclusively on the West End Games version, but given that there have been many versions and revisions over the years, I thought it might be worthwhile to simply reiterate what's come before. So let's get started, shall we? The first licensed role-playing game for the Star Wars universe was released in 1987 from West End Games. This was an immediate success, and West End Games would produce hundreds of adventure modules and sourcebooks, so authoritative on the Star Wars universe that this venerable line of role-playing material would add to and become the go-to reference work for authors and writers of the Star Wars expanded universe. But more on that in my upcoming video review. Based on West End Games' D6 system, the game was re-edited and updated in October of 1992 with a second edition, and then revised and expanded again in 1996 with more streamlined rules, play examples, re-edited rules, and much higher production values. The 1996 release was the pinnacle of West End Games' production of the Star Wars role-playing game. Unfortunately, financial problems related to West End Games' parent company, shoe company Bucci Retail Group, resulted in the company declaring bankruptcy in 1998 and the loss of the Star Wars license a year later. In 2000, Wizards of the Coast picked up the Star Wars role-playing game license and released their own version of the role-playing game to coincide with the release of the new movie, The Phantom Menace, with a system based on the popular RPG Dungeons & Dragons D20 system. Under Wizards of the Coast, a series of new sourcebooks would be released, and the game itself shared many similarities to the original West End Games version. This was primarily due to Wizards of the Coast hiring Bill Slavichek in 1997, the editor and contributor of the original game from West End Games, and assigning him to oversee the new project. Under Wizards of the Coast, the game would see two revisions. A revised and expanded version was released in 2002, coinciding with the movie release of Attack of the Clones. And at this time, Wizards also released a very popular and profitable line of Star Wars miniatures. Finally, in 2007, Wizards of the Coast released Star Wars Saga Edition. Now, I've not played this version of the game, but it seems to be quite popular with many and apparently shares some similarities to what would become the fourth edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Wizards of the Coast would produce a few more supplements after 2007, but ended its association with Lucasfilm in 2010. A year later, in 2011, the license was picked up by Fantasy Flight Games, and their first release for the Star Wars property, Edge of the Empire, came out in 2012. Fantasy Flight Games version is a vast departure from West End Games and Wizards of the Coast versions of the game, with a total of 3 compatible rules versions to date, and using a narrative storytelling system that employs specialty Star Wars dice. Edge of the Empire focuses on play and characters on the outer rim of the Star Wars universe and the more lawless fringe areas of the galaxy, the time period being just after the Battle of Yavin and the destruction of the Death Star in the first movie. The second rules release for the game came out in 2013, Age of Rebellion, and focuses on play and characters within the core worlds, and being part of the rebellion against the Empire. Finally, the latest rules release, Force and Destiny, also taking place in the same time period as the previous 2 releases, focuses on the reemergence of Force-sensitive characters just after the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi and explores the mysteries of the Force. Each of these releases from Fantasy Flight Games has been heavily supported with box sets and sourcebooks, and the line is known for its amazing original artwork and high production values. Well, that basically wraps up this brief overview of the various incarnations of the Star Wars role-playing game. I hope you found it useful and informative. Coming up next week, I will be doing an in-depth look at the Star Wars role-playing game from West End Games. So, thank you so much for watching. Comment below, subscribe, and of course, share. And, my friends, may the Force be with you.